Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to dive deep into a narrow, unassuming ribbon of water that quite literally silently controls the entire global economy. It's a place where unimaginable wealth, extreme geopolitical tension, and absolutely surreal ancient landscapes all collide. We're talking, of course, about the Strait of Hormuz. So let's jump right in.
To really wrap your head around why this specific stretch of water matters more than almost anywhere else on Earth, you just need to consider one massive figure: 21%. 21% of the entire world's oil, and a fifth of its liquefied natural gas, squeezes through this single, highly pressurized throat of water every single day.
And the sheer scale of where all this fuel is headed is just staggering. Almost 70% of that energy carves a direct path straight to the bustling ports of China, Japan, and India. It's feeding a global demand that literally never sleeps. You have these massive steel giants, vessels the size of upright skyscrapers, navigating a passage that feels incredibly intimate and dangerously crowded.
Now imagine if these tight lanes were ever blocked, even just for a short time. The cascading nightmare scenario would be immediate. In a hypothetical 2026 crisis scenario, by day one, the U.S. is forced to dump 50 million barrels from its emergency reserves just to stop the markets from totally panicking. By week one, neighborhood restaurants in India are shutting their doors because the liquefied natural gas they use to cook simply isn't arriving. And by week two, everyday people in Tokyo or Seoul are staring down gas prices hitting $200 a barrel. It hits regular folks directly in their wallets, fundamentally changing daily life overnight.
Part 1. A high-stakes chess match.
When you realize these skyscraper-sized ships are squeezed into maritime lanes just 3 kilometers wide in each direction, you naturally kind of have to wonder, right? Like, why don't the captains just give themselves a bit more breathing room? Why not just steer further south toward the Arabian coast and avoid the squeeze altogether?
Well, the reality is that the water down there is a treacherous labyrinth. The southern shoreline along the UAE and Oman is completely cluttered with jagged reefs and shallow sandbanks. And since a modern supertanker sits 25 meters deep in the water, it has absolutely zero appetite for hidden rocks. So these massive vessels are essentially forced to hug the deep, natural trenches that run precariously close to the northern shoreline, which just so happens to be the Iranian coast. So because of this geography, what you get is a highly militarized zone. You've got fast patrol boats zipping around like mosquitoes between these giant tankers, heavy missile launchers tucked away into rocky shorelines, and surveillance drones buzzing overhead. It opens the door for tactics like selective closure, where a nation might pull over and inspect only specific vessels from countries they're currently feuding with. It turns global trade into an incredibly tense game of tug-of-war between world powers, without technically having to shut down the whole strait. For the crews actually caught in the middle of this, dealing with overlapping military communications and radar tracks, the pressure is immense. A merchant captain could literally get a radio call from a coastal station demanding cargo details, while simultaneously a naval ship from a totally different country is radioing him, telling him to ignore that first call. The margin for error is basically zero. It results in what one merchant captain described as the longest, most stressful afternoon of his life. One single navigation error or misunderstood radio signal could spark a major international conflict.
But what makes this entire region so truly fascinating, and honestly, what usually gets completely missed in the evening news, is the stark contrast between this high-tech military anxiety and the ancient quiet rhythms of the local cultures living right there on the shores. We're talking about warships and global anxiety existing right alongside wooden dhows, sea nomads, and traditions that have survived for millennia.
Part 2. The Strait's surreal landscapes. Actually stepping onto the island of Hormuz feels exactly like landing on Mars. It is a surreal geological laboratory. The ground is this deep crimson that bleeds right into the ocean, creating these incredible dark red, ink-like waves, all thanks to a massive concentration of iron oxide. Then you wander into Rainbow Valley with its vivid, crazy stripes of sulfur and salt. And right in the middle of this Martian terrain sits the coral stone ruins of a 16th century Portuguese fort. It's a silent reminder that this quiet red dust was once the loudest, wealthiest spice and silk market on the entire planet.
Then, deep in the emerald waters of the Musandam Peninsula sits Telegraph Island. Back in 1864, the British Empire used this tiny, sun-scorched rock as a relay station for the world's first submarine telegraph cable. The operators there suffered through 120-degree heat and such crushing psychological isolation that they literally began to lose their minds. This is actually where the English phrase "going round the bend" comes from. It goes to show that the heavy psychological price of controlling the information flow in these waters is definitely nothing new.
Moving high above those flooded, silent canyons, we find Jebel Harim, also known as the Mountain of Women. At 6,500 feet up, the air is thin and cool, but the real mystery is hidden in the stone itself. The rocks way up there at the summit are packed with ancient coral and fish fossils. It proves that this towering peak was once a prehistoric ocean floor, pushed up into the sky by shifting tectonic plates, millions of years before the very first ships ever arrived to navigate the waters below.
Part 3.
Ancient crafts and hidden languages.
In ancient port cities like Laft, the skyline is completely defined by these architectural marvels called wind towers. Without using a single watt of electricity, these tall stone chimneys catch the slightest breeze high up above the ground and funnel naturally cooled air straight down into the homes below. It's a centuries-old air conditioning system that works flawlessly in temperatures that regularly soar above 100 degrees. It is an absolute masterclass in human adaptation to a harsh environment.
And this deep understanding of the environment extends beautifully to their maritime culture, too. Along the coast, you can still hear the rhythmic sound of hammers where master builders construct massive wooden longboats. These ocean-going vessels can be nearly 98 feet long, but get this, the builders use absolutely no paper plans or digital models. None. They rely entirely on mental blueprints passed down through generations, shaping incredibly heavy timber by hand and eye alone. It's an art form so profoundly unique that it's actively protected by UNESCO.
Hidden away at the absolute northern tip of the peninsula is a village called Kumzar. There are no roads here, you can only arrive by boat. The people here speak Kumzari, which is this living linguistic fossil that exists nowhere else on Earth. Because centuries of global sailors stopped here for fresh water, the language became a dizzying puzzle. It blends ancient Persian and Arabic, but it's sprinkled with Hindi, Portuguese, and early English. It is quite literally a language built by passing global tides.
Part 4. The Fragile Maritime Balance.
Now, Kish Island perfectly encapsulates the bizarre, fragile balance of this whole region. On the surface, it's known as the Dubai of Iran. We're talking a glittering luxury playground with white sand beaches, jet skis, and futuristic shopping malls. But because it sits directly on the primary shipping lanes, it's simultaneously a heavily armed, hardened military stronghold. You have the music from five-star resorts drifting over the exact same water where naval patrols are maintaining a tense, 24-hour watch over the world's energy supply. It's surreal.
Yet just a short boat ride away in the Hara Forest, which is this sprawling sanctuary of saltwater drinking mangrove trees, and off the silver-glittering shores of Hangam Island, nature just continues doing its own thing. Wild Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphins race alongside wooden boats, completely and utterly indifferent to the military patrol zones or any borders drawn by mankind. Sea nomads live in perfect harmony with the tides, seemingly a million miles away from the geopolitical stress playing out in the deeper channels.
So what does this all mean for us? Ultimately, all of these worlds, from the deeply stressed supertanker captains glued to their radar screens to the ancient boat builders trusting their hands to the sea nomads relying on the mangroves, they are all completely dependent on the 20 million barrels of oil moving through this strait every single day. The buyers in Asia need the fuel to keep their cities running, and the sellers on the coast need the income to survive. It forms a massive, unbreakable circle of dependence.
As we've seen in this explainer, this narrow passage is a place where extreme beauty and extreme tension exist side by side. Honestly, it's like a group of people all holding onto a very heavy, very fragile crate. Nobody wants to drop it, but everyone is getting tired of holding it. And it leaves us with one critical question. If the peace of the entire world's economy depends on everyone staying perfectly calm in a space where the margin for error is almost zero, how long can this delicate maritime balance truly hold? Thank you for joining us today to explore the Strait of Hormuz. We'll see you next time.